again, we go back into the power of words, and you create your whole life by the words that you give power to. I mean, one word or phrase you can use to hold yourself, or somebody can use to hold you hostage. I mean, I can't get over what she said. I can't get over how he treated me. And that one word or phrase really eats your lunch and steals away your ability to control, to be in
Hmm.
control. I mean, it's giving up authorship. It's giving up authority over, and we do this. We eat this poison in hoping that, like, I'll show you, right? And it's like eating the poison and watch, so that I'm hoping
And
that you'll die.
watch them die. Yeah.
Yep. And here's the thing. The funny thing is you've already decided many times on the vocabulary that's really appropriate or not appropriate for interacting with you. And usually everyone around you has no idea of the rules that you put in place. It's like it isn't like we came with an owner's manual. It isn't like we came with, some way for us to understand and interact with each other. And the even scarier thing is that most people do this unconsciously. Most people have built these words and these almost like prison cells where they've held themselves in, where these words become they become triggered, and we're triggered become triggered by the rules that we didn't consciously create. And you've wrapped yourself up in a whole life around these words that you've given authority to, and typically, again, it's done unconsciously. And
Yeah.
what I believe is the quality of your life is a direct reflection from the amount of consciousness that you put into it. I mean, we've heard
Yeah.
the saying, what does it mean to give your word, right? Or to keep your word? Or, have you ever heard your word is your bond? When you give your word, everything that you stand for is encapsulated in word. So, think of the times that you said no to things that you could have said yes to. Think of the times that you said yes to things that you could have said no to. How differently would your life be just by that one little bitty word? I mean, words are universes. They encapsulate the whole life and the focus. They're like filters that we can only see certain things based upon those words, and they hold the key really to heaven and hell for us. And it's not just the word, but the tone, the frequency, the direction, the speed of the word. When you choose to suffer due to something that someone else said, when you choose to suffer during something you said, you are giving authority to that word. How many times has your ego been bent out of shape by the words that somebody else used? And if that's the case, I mean, are the voices in your head louder or softer than the words? For me, what goes on here is even worse. If I allow words outside of me to dictate my internal landscape, how bent out of shape do you think you get? How disempowered do you get? And how blocked from showing up with words that you use internally? Imagine, let's imagine for a moment that you're on a grid, and this is the world. And if imagine that there's a globe, there's a globe over me, and everything that I can touch, I'm in this giant globe. This is me. This is me on the grid. This is where I live. And it's a lot like a boat. So when a boat's floating on the water, the goal is to not let any of the water in so that the boat continually moves. But when we allow the outside world to leak inside and dictate what's going on inside, what happens to the boat? It
It's
sinks.
sinking.
Right, it sinks. And so I need to constantly, you talk about, Thomas talking about, drinking coffee, the strychnine that we put in our coffee. I need to be equally concerned by what I put in my coffee. I call it my cup of badass every morning. Right? I got to be very careful on what I put in there, and I need to constantly be vigilant of what I put in my coffee, because if I put something in my coffee that's poisonous, then I'm gonna get poisoned. And there are certain words that, imagine if what would happen if you gave up that word. Imagine when you choose to give up a word that doesn't serve you, you're choosing to give up the whole universe that's attached to it. So, for example, like deserve. Deserve is a powerful word, right? I deserve this. I didn't deserve that. This shouldn't have happened to me. I deserve better. When I use the word deserve, expectations are premeditated resentments. When I use the word what I deserve, what I'm saying is reality is here, but it should be over here. It's like peeing into the wind, right? It's like I'm now fighting the reality of what is by what I think should have happened, what I think I should have experienced. And when you imagine just removing the word deserve out of your vocabulary. How powerful that would be transformational in here. The word blame. How many times do I spend my day, and I'm not saying you, I'm saying us, right? How many times do I spend my day with the filter of blame, looking for ways to blame this or blame that? And when we're doing that, we are attacking what is. We're looking for ways to hand off power for where we are and how we show up, and we're giving authority to something other than ourselves. And then we have some deeper words like victim. Like, imagine the word victim. How many times have you been a victim in your life? And that word has driven you. When I'm a victim, I am by default impacted negatively. I am by default not the author of my story. I am by default left to the empowerment or the authority of something outside of myself. And what would happen in the now, in the narrative, in the what we call in theater, if I chose to not use that word victim anymore? If you didn't have that, if that word was stripped out of your vocabulary and you no longer use that word, how would that change your world? And when I go back in and I look at my world, a good majority of my struggle, a good majority of what trips me up, of what gets me caught up in those negative thought patterns, the awfulizing, the attack thoughts, is when I feel like I'm being victimized. And a lot of my work's been done championing the victim and championing those people, whether it be the homeless, whether it be LGBT community, whether it be working with people with addictions and so on and so forth. It's been my mantra is to champion the championless. And so, when I dig down deeper, I go, well, there's a lot of juice in there for me, and I start to triangulate what's actually going on. And if I remove the word victim, then there's a whole bunch of space in my world. All of a sudden, I have room that I didn't know I had, and it's scary. If you think about it, it's scary. When I remove the word victim, then I go, okay, well, who am I going to be in these situations? Well, I don't know. I don't know, because this is the world I've always been living in. And so once I give that word up, I have to go back in and create a whole new signpost, and my world starts to shift. As I was able to shift out of it, because I like, okay, whoa, that was interesting. That really rocked the boat, and then I went in and started looking at why that was and how that tripped me up, and whether that was about me or about them or about a miscommunication or whatever it was. When I was able to disconnect from the emotional resonance that I was getting, the vibrational frequency that I was in the shadow that I went in, what I saw was I look for ways to be victimized. And that was a huge awareness piece for me.